Vienna, 1310. The stone is cold. The wine is blood. She sees what no one else can see. She tastes what no one else dares to name. A single drop of red shimmers on the flagstones of the Minoritenkirche. The air hums with low Gregorian chant and the ragged breathing of a woman deep in trance. Her lips are chapped, murmuring in Latin. Agnes Blanbekin kneels in the nave, and the visions pour through her like light through broken glass. Beside her, a quiet man with ink-stained fingers writes it all down. Every tremor, every whisper, every impossible thing her body experiences when God enters the room. The body remembers what the book burns. 4 centuries later, a different Vienna. The sound of an oiled printing press. A bureaucrat's desk, clean and orderly. A quill dips into red ink. The threat is not a monster this time. It is a list. A river of ink washing away names. Some histories are not conquered with swords. They are silenced with paperwork. The quill draws a neat red line through a title. Vita et Revelationes, Agnes Blanbekin. The life and revelations of Agnes Blanbekin. Crossed out, erased. As if 400 years of faith could be canceled with a single bureaucratic stroke. How do you destroy a voice that spoke directly to God? And why would an empire fear the ecstasies of one poor woman so deeply that it would hunt every copy of her book across its territories, burning them not in passion, but in cold administrative efficiency? This is not a story about heresy. It is a story about a body that refused to lie. Agnes Blanbekin owned nothing. She vowed nothing to any convent or rule. She was a beguine, part of a movement sweeping across Europe like wildfire in wool. These were laywomen who lived in cities, worked with their hands, prayed on their own terms, and answered to no mother superior, no bishop. They were a third way, pious but free. And freedom, especially for women, has always been seen as a threat. The church wanted walls. The beguines had none. Agnes lived in the labyrinth of Vienna's side streets, among the smell of tallow and horse dung, the clatter of carts on cobblestones. Her hands were rough from work. Her cloak was rough-spun wool. But her visions were vivid and relentless. She saw Christ's wounds weep. She tasted the blood of the Eucharist, not as metaphor, but as hot copper on her tongue. She felt the nails pierce her own palms in sympathetic ecstasy. And she spoke of these things to her confessor, a Franciscan monk whose name history has swallowed. We know him only by his tools, the careful scraping of his quill, the worn leather of his sandals on the stone floor, the quiet, patient focus as he listened. He was not a judge, he was a vessel, tasked with catching lightning in a bottle, with turning divine madness into ink and vellum. And he did not soften her words. He did not edit the divine, he wrote it all down. The story, we are told, is one of progress. The superstitious past corrected by the rational future. But the erasure of Agnes Blanbekin was not a correction. It was an amputation. They did not destroy her book because she was a heretic. They destroyed it because her faith was too real, too raw, too grotesquely physical for their sanitized God. This was not a war on ideas. It was a war on the body itself. On the possibility that a woman's flesh could be a site of revelation, that her suffering and her pleasure could both be holy, that the divine could be experienced not in the ordered hierarchy of a cathedral, but on a cold church floor by someone who owned nothing and owed nothing to anyone but God. To understand why Agnes had to be erased, you have to understand her world. The beguine movement spread like a network of roots across the Low Countries and into the Holy Roman Empire. These women lived in communities called beguinages, clusters of simple houses around a shared courtyard. They wove cloth, they brewed beer, they cared for the sick, they attended Mass, but they did not take permanent vows. They could leave, they could marry, they could own property. They carved out a space between the cloister and the marketplace, and that space terrified the men who believed order could only come from above. The 1310 Council of Vienna condemned the movement, calling certain beguines heretical. But Agnes was not accused of heresy in her lifetime. She was too careful, too orthodox in the shell of her language. It was only later, when the words her confessor had written began to circulate, that the danger became clear. Because Agnes did not just pray, she experienced. And she described those experiences in language that was tactile, carnal, startlingly specific. In the gloom of the confessional, the confessor's hand hesitates over the page. He has just heard the vision that will make this book a target. Agnes has told him of a mystical encounter with the Eucharist so intimate, so shockingly bodily, that it collapses the distance between worship and desire, between suffering and ecstasy. The wafer on her tongue becomes flesh, the wine becomes blood, and she does not receive it passively. She tastes it, she feels it. Her body becomes the site where God is consumed and where God consumes. The quill scratches in the silence. He could stop. He could soften the words, but he does not. The ink bleeds slightly into the vellum as he presses down. A truth too strange for the world, but a truth nonetheless. The body remembers what the book burns. Cinders and codices exists because these moments matter. Because one man chose to write down what a woman told him, even when it was dangerous, even when it made God uncomfortable. Pull one more voice from the darkness. Subscribe. The manuscript circulates quietly for decades. Copied by hand in scriptoriums, read by nuns and monks and other mystics, it is not a bestseller. It is a whisper passed between those who understand that faith can be a wound and a feast at the same time. Agnes dies around 1315, her name known only in small circles. But the book survives. Then comes the 18th century, the Age of Reason, the Catholic Enlightenment. Emperor Joseph II of Austria, a man who believes the Church should be rational, useful, obedient to the state. He closes monasteries by the dozen. He empties their libraries. He orders inventories, audits, purges. And buried in those purges is a quiet directive. Books that promote superstition, that glorify excessive mysticism, that present religion as irrational ecstasy rather than moral discipline. These are to be removed. Agnes Blanbekin's Vita et Revelationes is on the list. So why burn the book? Who benefits from this silence? Ask yourself, who is left when the ecstatic, the female, the bodily experience of God is erased? What remains is a faith of the head, not the heart. A faith of hierarchies, of catechisms, of men in silk and lace dictating truth from a palace. A faith that can be controlled. A faith that does not erupt on a cold church floor. Unpredictable and wild. The portraits of 18th century cardinals and prince bishops hang in museum halls now, faces distant and cold. They wanted order. Agnes offered chaos. They wanted a God you could file and categorize. Agnes offered a God who bled into your mouth and left you shaking. The process of oppression is elegant. No angry mobs, no public bonfires, just lists. A courier on horseback carries a satchel of decrees across Lower Austria. A monk in a scriptorium receives the order. His face falls. He knows what this means. Inventories are made. Carts are loaded with books. Each signature on a transfer form is another nail in the coffin. Each book taken from its shelf, another voice muted. The 1782 decree from the Hofbibliothek in Vienna is precise and calm. It lists titles to be removed, monasteries to be audited, collections to be consolidated or destroyed. Agnes's book is not singled out by name in the main text. It is simply among the condemned. The Austrian state archives preserve these records, bills of lading for books transferred from St. Florian Monastery to Vienna, inventories of volumes sent to be pulped for paper. This is the elegant cruelty of the Enlightenment. Not fury, but paperwork. But one copy escapes. A defiant librarian, name unknown, hides a codex containing Agnes's life in the false bottom of a crate. It is smuggled from Vienna to a rural parish. The attrition is brutal. The copy from Melk Abbey burns in a fire. The Graz copy is pulped. The copy from the Vienna Dominicans vanishes during the Napoleonic Wars. One by one, the list of known copies is stamped, destroyed. The surviving codex becomes a refugee. It passes through wars, through monastery closures, through the bombs of the 20th century. It is traded, hidden, forgotten, rediscovered. It is battered and unassuming. Its vellum is stained. The ink is faded. But the words remain. The journey is long. The codex travels from parish to parish, sometimes labeled incorrectly in inventories, sometimes buried in uncatalogued collections. A librarian's acquisition note from 1805, scrawled on the flyleaf of an unrelated book, mentions a volume of female visions, origin uncertain. It is a breadcrumb. The book is still moving. Help us remember these journeys. Like this video. Keep the archive alive. We arrive in the present, the hushed reading room of the Austrian National Library. A historian in white gloves carefully opens the lone survivor. The codex is small, undecorated. It smells of dust and centuries. The pages crackle. And there, in tight Latin script, are the words that an empire tried to erase. The most controversial vision is still there, faded but undeniable. Agnes describes the moment the Eucharist becomes flesh in her mouth, the shock of it, the intimacy. She describes her body as the vessel, the site where God's suffering and her own become indistinguishable. It is shocking even now. It is raw and specific and alive. 400 years of decrees and fire and forgetting. And it all failed. It failed because one man wrote it down and one book survived. The ink is faded. The vellum is brittle. But the words are there. The body remembers what the book burns. The book is the body now. And it remembers everything. Modern Vienna flows past the Minaritenkirche. Tourists take photos. Trams clatter. The church still stands, a quiet Gothic spine in the heart of the city. Most people do not know that a poor beguine once knelt here and tasted God. Most people do not know that an empire once feared her enough to hunt every copy of her story. But the book survived. And in surviving, it proves something the censors could not imagine. Memory outlives empire. The Habsburg dynasty is gone. The bureaucrats who drew their red lines are dust. Their meticulously organized lists are forgotten artifacts. But Agnes Blanbekin, the woman who owned nothing, still speaks. Her voice, carried in the frail body of a single manuscript, outlasted them all. The book is kept now in climate-controlled darkness, handled only with gloves. But it is read. Scholars translate it, historians cite it, theologians wrestle with it. The vision that was too dangerous for the 18th century is now part of the historical record, a witness to a faith that refused to be sanitized. The light refuses to die. The body remembers what the book burns. And cinders and codices will keep these stories alive. Subscribe and help us hold the line between memory and forgetting.